Steam Next Fest has blessed us once again with an overwhelming number of indie game demos to wade through. So whether you're into the spooks, the action, or the weird, Second Wind has combed the list and found some gems we think might be worth your time.
A retro, creepy dungeon crawl card game with lost media vibes from an alternate 1995-ish timeline? That's an instant download for me. Thankfully, the demo is more than just a great pitch. It takes the basic gameplay of Solitaire and mixes it with alternative goals, different deck layouts, and enemy powers that keep it unpredictable. The power-ups you get from the definitely friendly and not at all creepy eye in the wall expand your abilities and modify cards in your deck, giving you powers ranging from reshuffling to wild cards to undoing moves. Add one-on-one battles, alternative objectives to just winning a hand of Solitaire, and a meta subplot of your friend messaging you as she researches the history of this lost game while you're playing it, and I was thoroughly hooked and looking forward to playing the full game whenever it comes out, hopefully later this year.
Given that I wrote about Denshattack for our most anticipated games of 2026 video, I was legally obligated to check out its demo the second it hit Steam. And I'm happy to report that getting hands-on with this kaleidoscopic chaos of a game made me even more excited for it. Denshattack reminds me of the first time I played Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. I was immediately entranced by its single level found on a Pizza Hut demo disc, but it took me a minute to understand its strange new mechanical language that mixed elements of fighters, puzzlers, and platformers. Denshattack is no different, as I slowly wrap my head around honking my horn to raise barriers, hopping between parallel tracks, drifting around tight turns, vaulting high into the air, and sending my whole train crashing down with a well-timed ground pound. The bite-sized levels contain multiple paths and challenges, making them a blast to replay and ultimately master. And as you can probably tell, the game exudes a distinctly Dreamcast-flavored energy, which I adore. Denshattack is set to release later this spring, and until then, I will be looping this demo on repeat.
Tombwater is a 2D, top-down, Souls-like Western developed by Moth Atlas and published by Midwest Games. As it turns out, the title refers not to an ill-advised beverage brand, but to a once prosperous mining town overrun by eldritch horrors that you must shoot, slash, and spellcast your way through in search of a lost friend. It's a pretty classic Souls-like in the sense that you have health flasks, bonfires to rest at, passive granting charms to equip, and finite stamina. And naturally, you also drop your currency and accumulated experience on death. A neat little twist on that particular mechanic is that, while destroying the echo left at the site of your death predictably recovers your lost money and XP, standing near it gradually heals you, so in some cases, you're incentivized to leave it intact while reattempting the encounter that killed you before. The combat style of Tombwater is varied but balanced. You have firearms with limited bullets, melee attacks that refill said bullets, and spells that can only be used a few times between bonfires, so you simply can't rely on a single attack type to get you through the majority of encounters. Having to switch between my shotgun and my whip kept me on my toes and made my palms sweat ever so slightly during the demo's boss fight, and I'm looking forward to taking on tougher enemies and trying different builds when Tombwater releases for PC on April 22nd.
I've been keeping an eye on MIGHTREYA, the My Hero Academia-coded spectacle fighter from Wazen. The short demo introduces you to Rhea, a superpowered schoolgirl taking on kaiju threats from another dimension. Her new friend and manager Neo is a vlogger who documents Rhea's battles for social media impressions, and the goofy dynamic between the two and the internet's reactions to Rhea's journey are a fun and unique addition to the bureaucratic superhero genre we've seen a lot of lately. The kinetic action is admittedly hard to follow, at least at first. Rhea's speed is legit, and she'll zoom towards enemies or landing points in the blink of an eye. But once I got used to the pace, the freedom of aerial movement felt great. Combat is very simple. Your primary attack combos are on a single button with a couple modifiers to launch enemies up or down. This will build a special bar that allows for stance-breaking heavy attacks and a spectral grab that can pull enemies you launch back to you or throw debris or monsters into each other. It's chaotic, yet oh so satisfying, like reliving my days making action figures fight climactic battles. MIGHTREYA nails the look, feel, and sound of a big-ass anime set piece, but gives you just enough control over the movement and action to keep you engrossed in the spectacle of it all. There's still no release date, but the devs have been responsive enough to even update the demo based on player feedback since its recent launch, so I'm feeling confident we'll get something fun when it finally does drop.
Live out your high-fidelity or Empire Record dreams in Waxheads, the first release by two-person studio Patati Games. It's your first day on the job and you're ready to learn, oh my god, is that Morgan? Your boss is the Morgan McIntyre from Becoming Violets? How'd she end up managing Repeater Records? Waxheads is oozing with affection for records, music, the people who make it, and the fans who love it. Chat with customers to solve the puzzle of what record is the perfect fit, and learn from your coworkers the hot goss on the local music scene. The vibrant punk rock art is packed with funky details, and the music, needless to say, it's incredible. Waxheads is set to release May 5th.
While many roguelike RPGs try to get you with lots of weapons and power-ups and fast-paced action, BORG Heresy Supreme takes a different approach. Your health? Low. Your weapons? Limited. Your chances of success? Slim. You're no hero. You're a meatbag trying to survive and form a party with other meatbags, so at least one of you can achieve something of worth. The pacing is slow and methodical. Even committing to 2 attacks in a row needs consideration. You waddle across small, isolated areas, and when combat begins, you're trapped until you either succeed or die. Different classes offer different weapons and movement speeds, but even my quickest character was still susceptible to getting overwhelmed if I wasn't thoughtful with every choice. While I think the amount of backtracking is holding it back from higher praise, if this is the foundation they're building the game on, I'm excited to see more.
The Eternal Life of Goldman is a gorgeous 2D platforming adventure with some of the most stunning hand-drawn animation this side of Cuphead. You play as the titular Goldman, an aging adventurer who explores various islands steeped in myths and legends. The game's main mechanic is an evolution of the iconic pogo stick hopping from DuckTales on the NES. But while that remained relatively static back in the late 80s, Goldman has you finding different pieces for your cane that you can swap in and out on the fly. A hook handle allows you to hang on different rings, while swapping out the shaft can increase or decrease the height of your bounce depending on what the current situation demands. And I don't need to harp on it since you're seeing it right now, but holy moly is this animation stunning. It's the kind of game that could be sold by showcasing someone any 5-second slice. The whole adventure unfolds as a Princess Bride-esque story within a story, as it's being told to us by a mother and her possibly hospitalized child, so fair warning, there is a good chance that the Eternal Life of Goldman is going to break a few hearts by the time those credits roll.
Nightfall Cafe, a point-and-click adventure developed by Linohara and NeoAlex and published by Milo Cyrus Studio, has made me realize that I've always subconsciously yearned for a game that combines cryptids, coffee, and botany. You play as Anna, a botanist staying at an abandoned hunter's lodge in the forest while she studies the local plants. You explore the environment, solve some simple puzzles, uncover secrets, and make coffee for an almost certainly not human guy called Hatman. I had a handful of nitpicks about the demo, such as one instance where I was suddenly unable to interact with anything, which was solved by closing and reopening the game. I also ended up making 3 save files for footage recording purposes, and in one of them I couldn't for the life of me figure out how to trigger the appearance of a key item, despite having no such issue in the other 2 files. So, while I don't necessarily recommend playing the demo, and therefore am not 100% sold on the gameplay just yet, the charming concept, lovely hand-drawn art, and moody atmosphere were more than enough to pique my interest and earn Nightfall Cafe a spot on my wishlist.
SoulQuest is a pixel art action platformer that translates the high-speed sword-swinging action of 3D spectacle fighters to a 2D plane. Alice is a warrior on a quest to force the Celtic gods to give back her dead husband's soul. It's a story we've heard before, and I'm not sure the Marvel movie-esque dialogue filled with sarcasm and quips are doing the narrative any favors, but I found the straightforward gameplay and smooth-feeling controls to hold my attention far more. The demo lets you upgrade a fair bit of Alice's combat prowess and movement abilities over its roughly 1-hour runtime, and it's surprisingly deep how varied her skill set becomes. In addition to double jumps and aerial dashes, she can practically stay airborne indefinitely, using the right attack combos. and chasing the high of flawless encounters kept me playing past the demo's end. While I didn't find the enemy lineups to be especially varied in the two explorable areas, there was a nice mix of platforming scenarios and challenges to help break up the combat. I'm hoping the full release can continue to deepen the gameplay with additional magic powers and combat abilities, but there's no timeline given as of yet, so just like Alice's dead husband, we'll have to hold on a while longer.
Blast Cats is a fever dream of a game. Everything I have to say about it harbors admiration and disdain in the same breath. The visuals are chunky and disconnected. The soundtrack and sound effects are bombastic and oppressive. Your moveset is imaginative and unhinged. Everything from weapons to enemies to environments feels frantically plucked from the mind of an ADHD millennial hyped up on sugary cereal they haven't had in decades. I'm not 100% sure I like it, but I am sure it's interesting. And if it piques your interest at all, you should try it.
Outer Loop, the studio behind Falcon Age and Thirsty Suitors, is back with a spicy new RPG. In Dosa Divas, Samara and Amani have returned home after 10 years away, only to find that their sister Lena has taken over the family restaurant and turned it corporate. And she's not alone. An army of lawyers and allies are ready to crush anyone who stands in the way of fast food domination. Thankfully, you're not alone either. You've got Goddess the Mech fighting by your side. In between bouts of cooking minigames, you'll battle enemies with sweet, sour, and salty attacks. Knock down shields with reflex-based specials, then pile on the damage with boosts. The game is swinging at convenience culture, which demands we abandon the joys of cooking and community in the name of efficiency. To that end, you'll collect, trade, and transform ingredients, platform around beautiful villages, and make new friends, or try to repair some of your broken relationships. Dosa Divas is set to release April 14th. I recommend eating before you play.
Of the 50 plus demos I checked out during this most recent Next Fest, none caught me off guard quite as much as Titanium Court, and I absolutely mean that as a compliment. I guess you'd describe it as a fourth wall breaking, match 3 roguelike strategy RPG, though any kind of conventional genre classification just seems silly in a game like this. You play as a very confused person who stumbles upon a castle with denizens ripped straight out of a Monty Python sketch who promptly name you their queen. The game is somewhat divided into these 3 chunks: a quasi-adventure where you learn the batshit insane rules of this bizarre kingdom, a planning phase that involves gathering resources like wood and grain via simple match 3 mechanics, and finally a battle phase which unfolds a bit like 2021's excellent Loop Hero, where you spend your resources to send out units that hopefully help you survive the skirmish. The thing is, every time I felt like I had a grasp for what this game was, it threw a delightful curveball my way. Sometimes quite literally, like when the person gave me a potion that would help me like the game of baseball slightly more than I already do, which had 0 tangible in-game effects as far as I could tell. As a lifelong fan of all things capital W weird, I am so completely sold on Titanium Court.
Alabaster Dawn is a game that leaves a very strong impression right from first sight. It is a gorgeous 2.5D pixel art action RPG from Radical Fish Games, the same team that gave us 2018's Crosscode. The demo takes you through the opening hours of the story, then jumps a little ways forwards a few times to show off some deeper mechanics, later quest designs, and dungeon gameplay. After an apocalyptic monster invasion, you, Juno, awake from one of many shelters across the land, as the lone warrior tasked with reclaiming the world from the dark threat. But you seem to be the backup plan. 12 heroes armed with godly weapons and equipment were meant to be the vanguard, and things appear to now be left to you and a floating capybara creature you've named Cabbage. The mystery of what went wrong during the invasion and why the recovery plan seems to be limping along are compelling enough reasons to see this adventure through. But I also found myself deeply engaged with Alabaster Dawn's top-down combat and environmental puzzle design. There are a wide variety of techniques and skills to unlock with each weapon across melee and ranged options, all of which seem to double as tools that aid in navigating the intricate open environments and puzzle-filled dungeons. If it isn't already, Alabaster Dawn needs to be on your radar. Its demo provides a jaw-dropping presentation, intriguing story premise, addicting exploration, and mechanically rich combat across its 2-hour runtime that lets you keep your progress into the full release. I was looking forward to it before, but I'm downright excited now.
Everything is Crab is pretty simple. A casual roguelike in an environment that's a seemingly endless plane of a few biomes. You wander to find food, fight enemies, and interact with points of interest. When you eat enough fallen fruit or meat from defeated enemies, you level and get to pick one of 3 random abilities. Each choice evolves your creature, certain traits open or close off other branches in the evolutionary tree, and synergizing is incredibly useful if you think ahead. I found it a bit basic at first, but I did end up coming back to it repeatedly over a few days and found myself getting more and more invested every single time. It needs to evolve more to become a great game rather than a good demo, but I think it's got potential to be a casual game I boot up for a nice distraction, similar to how I played through Megabonk.
There you have it. These were the games that caught our attention, but let us know what you found in the comments as well. And we'll see you next Fest.